Well, Arcane has finally finished, and it came to an end with a breathtaking flourish, with a massive final battle, a sacrifice, and some foreshadowing and build up for future installments in the League of Legends universe. Though a little rushed, it was a great ending to a brilliant story, as the tale of Vi, Caitlyn, Jinx, and more were wrapped up for the time being. Yet in the finale, in Act 3, there was one character who stood out among the rest, who was arguably the most important character of Season 2, despite his disappearing for half of the show. And that person is, of course, Ekko. Because wow, what a turnaround for him. From not turning up at all, like at all, in Act 2 of Season 2, not even getting a mention, to being the sole person who almost solely eradicated the threat of Victor and the Glorious Evolution, with a little bit of help from Victor to finish it off. That is, yeah, wow. Ekko was brilliant in the third act, that's all I'll say. And despite all their annoyance and outrage by the end of Act 2, the multitude of Ekko fans were appeased, as their and everyone's favourite hoverboard riding protagonist saved the day with his time shenanigans, and got some really good character development on the way. So today I want to talk about Ekko because he definitely deserves some appreciation at the very least for everything that he had to do in that last act to save the heroes, and did so at the expense of his own happiness, I might add, at the expense of what could have been a perfect life with Powder, albeit in a different reality, which we'll get to soon. But before that, really quickly, massive spoilers ahead for episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Arcane Season 2, so if you haven't watched those already, make sure to go watch it now before watching this video, or don't, and spare yourself the pain that the finale induced upon us all. Also, if you do enjoy this video and would like to see me waffling about Arcane and other stories, make sure to subscribe. This is a growing channel and I would greatly appreciate just one simple click. It would really be such a help. But anyways, let's get straight into it now and start at the beginning, when Ekko was initially cast back in time to do the Hex Gate, the weird anomaly thing. And I do have to say he got quite lucky here. I mean, the same thing happened to Jace, except he ended up in literal hell on his own for years. That would have been absolutely horrible, and Ekko, on the other hand, maybe got a stroke of luck. Or not, which you'll probably find out soon why that is, because Ekko ends up in this sort of alternate reality, a reality where Hextech was never invented, and thus had no impact on Powder and Vi, on how Powder accidentally killed Vander, and didn't play a role in the fight between Zorn and Piltover. So in this reality, Jinx, or rather Powder, is alive, along with Krager, Milo, Vander, and even Silco, who's friends with Vander again, and that was very, very nice to see, and I'm not gonna lie, did make me quite sad, just thinking about what could have been, not only for Ekko, but for the rest of our central characters, how happy their lives could have been. That is though, except for Vi, who in that fight with Silco in episode 3 died in this alternate universe. Which, while it was sad, may have just been a necessary casualty here to achieve the best possible outcome, to achieve peace between Piltover and Zorn. And the rest of the episode plays out much like we thought it would when we saw that Jinx and Ekko were friends in this universe, like straight out of a time bomb fanfic from the depths of AO3. And listen, I'm not complaining at all, because whilst I'm not a huge shipper of Ekko and Powder, I still really quite liked it and was really impressed by Ekko's character development in this episode. It just struck all the right chords, and it made you feel emotional when you realise how good things could have been, albeit the loss of Vi. And for Ekko, that feeling is probably amplified 1,000. Because the fact is, he could have stayed there. He could have stayed in this universe, forgotten all about the loss, tragedy, and evil going on in his own, and he could have very easily just lived out the perfect life with Powder. It was that easy, and something tells me that Heimerdinger, who also got stuck in this reality, wouldn't actually have done too much to stop him, seeing how happy he was here, seeing how peaceful and how good this world was compared to their own. Yet Ekko, being the absolute hero he is, the person that he is simply so strong and good in heart, guess what? He refuses to do this. Because we see him, Powder, and Heimerdinger working relentlessly to create a machine that can send them back to the normal universe. And then, of course, we have such heart-wrenching scenes such as Ekko and Powder sharing a dance, etc., having their moment. And whilst it's so nice, so heartwarming, it really changes around, doesn't it? Because then Ekko has to go back in time to return to the normal timeline, and seeing him be separated from Powder, that was sad. And this makes him such a hero. He could have had the perfect life in this reality, not having to worry about anything, and could have lived out his life with Powder and his friends. Yet he does what he did. He returns back, and in the coolest fashion you could ask for, might I add, as he returns with Jinx to take down Ambessa's soldiers and the threat that Victor poses. And this scene as well is so well written, where we see Ekko going to save Jinx's life in the normal timeline, stopping her from killing herself, and showing her what kind of a difference she could make in the war effort. And then, of course, the two do eventually turn up to the scene of the battle, effectively turning the tide in favour of Vi, Caitlyn, and the Piltovers and the Zornites. Episode 7 as a whole was so good and easily one of my favourites of season 2, maybe of the entire series. Because you see, one problem that Arcane faces above all, perhaps the only problem, is that there just isn't enough of it. And if that fact isn't able to prove to you how good Arcane is, not much else will. Because the one problem with Arcane is that we just do not have enough Arcane. There isn't enough filler where we're able to just spend time in the story in this world without following the plot at 100 miles per hour, but rather advance the characters, deepen them, and progress them whilst moving the plot forward, just not so fast, just enjoy it. Yet episode 7 with Ekko does this perfectly. There's not really a big battle sequence here. The stakes as well really aren't all that high here. Yet episode 7 still manages to hit so hard emotionally, more than a lot of the rest of the season. And it's a combination of brilliant writing as always, excellent characters, and so much more that Riot and 40 Shea bring to the table, allowing for this solitary episode with Ekko to feel so good. So fun to watch without detracting from the main story. And I do have to say that if Ekko had decided to stay in that reality, I don't think many people could have blamed him. Just look at how amazing it was, how good it could have been. It was a real shame that he had to leave, and I don't think many people would have put too much blame on him, given him too much stick for staying there. But back to the present timeline now, because that's what we're here to talk about. So let's look at his impact after he returns to the normal reality. Because I will tell you now, boy, does he have an impact. Like I mentioned previously, he convinces a grief-stricken and suicidal Jinx to put aside her hate for herself, her want to end things to come help in the war effort, which is nothing to be sneezed at, considering just how far gone Jinx was, how close she was to killing herself after the loss of Isha. He was a solitary person, more than Vi as well, who could bring her back, who could get her to see the point in life. Then of course we have his actual involvement in the battle, which cannot be understated, because he is so vital in this fight. Him and Mel arguably had the biggest impact in this fight, Mel with her powers from the Black Rose, and Ekko with his newfound time powers, which, by the way, are just so cool. I mean, I have never played League of Legends, and so I'm not really familiar with certain champions' powers, so Ekko may have had this before, but seeing him use it in the battle was so much fun and such a cool thing to see for the first time, unlike maybe a few people who've already played League of Legends. But then comes the vital moment. Because by the end of the battle between Victor, Ambessa, and her force from Noxus versus the people of Zone and Piltover, things, as you would expect, are not looking good at all. Jace has been defeated pretty much by Victor, who is in his ultimate robot form. I'm not sure what it's called, but he has decimated the opposition with his evolved robot followers. But that is until Ekko arrives, and in an absolutely brilliant scene, he manages to do what not a single other character, not Jace, not Vi, not Kate, no one was able to even lay a finger on Victor until he arrived. The actual goat of this act is, and he's able to chip off a piece of Victor's mask. And this doesn't seem so important, but I'm fairly confident that this had a huge role in Victor seeing his wrong and reversing the glorious evolution. Because by breaking off a piece of the mask, it allows the real Victor, the human Victor, the Victor that we know from season 1, full of hope for a better future, to see through and see what his work has led to, what has happened. And doing so, he sees the wrong in his actions, and while it does perhaps happen a little fast, with help from Jace, Victor does destroy Hextech, and pretty much saves the day. And the conclusion I think we can all draw from this is that Ekko is just brilliant. I think he is quite easily gone from being forgotten about in Act 2, not by the fans though, and not even appearing, to probably becoming the MVP of Season 2 of Arcane. And whilst every character definitely did play their role in the battle, there's no denying that, Mel and Jace in particular, Ekko undoubtedly was the one who we should be thanking above all, because he pretty much sacrificed everything to come back. And by the end of it, he had nothing. In fact, we see this extremely depressing shot of Ekko sitting on his own after the battle, burning a paper for Jinx, the person who he cared for most probably, and was also one of the main reasons he chose to return. So despite everything, in the way of saving everyone, he also lost everything. That is very sad. But in summary, Ekko went back in time to a dream alternate reality universe, spent time there and seemingly had the time of his life with Powder, but sacrificed that life to return to his own broken world and save the day, and Piltover and Zone in the process, and also lost one of his good friends, Heimerdinger, in that whole thing with the whole time fiasco. I'm really not sure what happened there. And despite everything that's happened, he managed to do all this whilst just being like the nicest and coolest character in the show. Just his character design, everything about him is just brilliant. And he is the true GOAT. And I think a lot of people can agree with that he is the true MVP of Season 2 of Arcane. But anyways, that is the end of today's video. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of me just waffling and hyping up Ekko. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. This is a growing channel, and one simple click would really help. And make sure to comment down below what you think of Ekko and why you think that he's such a cool character. Or maybe why you don't. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Darth Sauron out.